الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I would like أول شيء أبدأ بالشكر للمهندس محمد وآركينت على دعوتهم وعلى تنظيمهم الرائع جدا جدا البريبريشن من كل النواحي، أشكرهم جدا. I would like to thank Engineer Mohammed Masharawi and ArchiNet platform for their preparing this show. Also, the really good preparation, amusing to me and to Michael. So I will start. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hello, hello. I hope you're doing fine.
Fantastic.
Good.
I think you have a slight bit cold weather, right?
Oh, yes, indeed. It's about 0 degrees.
Oh,
So here in
yeah,
Germany,
we can give you some.
it can
Here
sometimes
we have,
be very cold, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish you maybe a warm weather coming soon.
Yeah, that would be nice. I would really welcome that. But yeah,
Perfect.
first of all, let me thank you all for having me here. Thank you, Mohammed, for organizing it. Thank you to all the people from ArchiNet for preparing that something so professional. Respect for this work.
Perfect. Absolutely. If there is a problem with sound, hearing me, just tell me, Michael. I will start with the normal. Perfect. With a normal question, Michael, everybody is asking always, how did you get into the lighting world?
Well, to a certain extent by accident. I worked as an apprentice in the design sector when I was not even 20 years old. And then I started studying at 2 German universities, and there's always a little part of that is lighting. And to me, that was very interesting. So I focused a bit more on that after university. I dived deeper into it. I worked on many exhibitions for small and large projects, and always had like a sweet spot in my heart for the lighting things. And this way I got deeper and deeper. I made hotels and always concentrated more on lighting than probably my boss wanted me to concentrate on it. And during that time, I had the team lead and had the freedom to try things out. And I tried most things out in the lighting sector. And then I worked for the German Institute for the Application of Light, and at the same time had my own lighting design office here in Germany. And while working for the German Institute for the Application of Light, you have so much knowledge concentrated on one place, which I absorbed. And then I had my own studies, my own office, and my own projects. And that was for me a way to learn a lot. And I learned a lot of this also by teaching other people. I've been teaching people from all around the world and help people to develop software and work on building automation, all things related to lighting always. Well, and the design office is mainly doing lighting design.
Perfect.
So that was my path into it.
Perfect. And that takes us also, I'm amazed also of the title of the of this interview. You said there is no architecture good in darkness.
Correct.
It's a good title, by the way. I like it. Yeah. And
yeah.
Could you elaborate? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's quite true. Well, imagine everything would be dark, you would not even see it. So as humans, we need the light. But it's not only that we humans need the light. If you work as an architect, then you're trying to make things look good. Then you try to make things as functional as possible. And whilst you're doing these things, you can achieve it only if you put it into the right scenery. Imagine a beautiful building, a beautiful museum. And then no one would care about a good lighting concept. Then you would increase the level of quality very significantly. So anything good, it always, you can compare it either to, for example, to food. If you have a good dish, it even will be looking better. If the spices, the ingredients are well sorted out, if they're well matched, then you have finally a really good result. Throwing all things in the pan is not good enough. So it really needs more. And much of that is also true when you're thinking about working for the people, for the humans. I think lighting in design should be in 99% of the cases for the humans. So for the architect and the human. So I would hardly ever do anything which would be against the human needs. The basic human needs are well known to everyone, knowing this pyramid where you have the basic needs and the more elaborate needs. And therefore, what I hardly ever do is doing the light just for entertainment.
Good. In this, and that takes us to a very important question. In what you're saying, how you will achieve a good results? What is the main focus? If you do it, then you achieve a good results.
That's the way I'm starting a project. So it's usually quite an analytic approach that I do. So it's not an approach where I start with something just coming out of the brain just by accident. No, it's a very analytic approach. So that is a very generous strategy which works in almost any case. And in the lectures that I've given in the past and I'll be giving in the future, I teach that how to make a project in a way that you have like a blank paper and you have the information of the project. And then I'm starting to make things logical. Just to give you an example, I've been doing a project not so far away in the past in Luxembourg for quite a wealthy family. And they're doing a family house or residence every 3 or 4 years. They're building something new. And during our communication, my presentation, I started at the garage, the bottom floor where they have their cars. And I explained why I'm doing this and why I'm doing that. And the lady who was making the decision, which is quite often the case, that received a phone call during our conversation. And I just had to listen what she was talking. She said, yes, sir. No, I know you made several lighting concepts for me. Yes, but by a friend's recommendation, I came across Michael Immecke, and he explains me why do I have this light. So he's not like what you did. Say, look, this nice fixture. Do you want to have it? Do you like it? Okay, then we use that. He has not. We've been talking about an hour now about the lighting design, but we're not talking about fixtures. We don't talk about light and how it will look and how it feels and how it will affect me. And this is logical to me. And because it's logical, I will stick with him. Now, meanwhile, we've done a second and a third project with her. So in France, the other one, and the other one in Belgium. So obviously it is convincing because it's logical. It's nothing which just happens.
So achieving this, Michael, I understand from you, is by doing analytics.
Yeah, I'm doing
this is the main criteria. Okay.
Yeah. So if you would give me a project, we would have to talk about it. I have to look it up very closely. And if you think of a situation, take a hotel lobby, which is an entrance situation. You enter a room, and when you enter that room, you start looking around. You're there the first time. Very often you enter a room the first time. So what is important for you? You would like to know where you have to go to. So if everything is looking more or less the same, particularly important for elderly people, but in general, if it's all a mess of people and you don't know where to go to, the light will help you to guide you to the right place. And that's, for example, an analytic approach on how lighting design should work. You'll be starting at, okay, what is the experience a human would like to have in that place or should have in that place? It will be also look at it from the human perspective. Then a second thing would be at the architectural perspective. What things are there? What materials are there? Take an example. You have a wooden wall, and I would illuminate that with a cold and bluish light. You're investing, I don't know, let's say 100,000 euros or dollars into wooden panels for a wall. Then you would like to see that it looks good. You have chosen something particularly important because you think it's the right material for that surface. So it's my task to say, okay, I'm using a light which is making that product that you are using or the surface you are using an outstanding one. which is in line with
Illuminate.
what we have. When the light is good, then I'll make everything that you've done look good. So if there would be no light or no good light, then there is no good architecture.
Absolutely. Perfect. Absolutely. I know you are not agreeing with standards sometimes. So can you elaborate on this?
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned before, I'm looking at the architecture. I'm looking at the humans. And in fact, you're right. Sometimes I ignore standards. That sounds like, yeah, should you do that? The standards are a guideline. And I know them. I know them really with much detail. But if you know how standards are determined, then you sometimes wonder what it is made for. Are the standards made for the humans, or are humans made for the standards? So I have recently looked up the German board of standards, which is much like the European one. You probably know the EN 12464, which is the rules for lighting design in workplaces. And 60% of the people working there in this group defining the standards are coming from manufacturers. So it's not much surprise that these standards are much affected by the interests of the industry. Just to give you two examples. One is the uniformity, which is a rule which is there in probably like 20 years or so, which has not been there always. So you should prove that you're having in an office, for example, 500 lux on the work plane, which is a certain amount of light. Okay, which is fine. In the past, it was the average, which could mean you have 1000 lux here and 0 lux over there. Since we have the uniformity rule, you should have something which is called 0.6, which is you have the average divided by the lowest value divided by the average. This should not be less than 0.6, making it very uniform. Okay, I can understand that you would like to have no really dark spots. But what would it be if you look into the nature? You like the lively atmosphere of shadows and light, which is absolutely not uniform, which is something in line with our nature. But if you prepare a place very uniform, it's usually very boring, but it helps in selling luminaires. So that's why there is that uniformity rule. That might sound a bit like a provocation to many people in the industry, but I think it's like that. So you have to be very careful how to handle these rules. And a second example is if you look at road lighting, traditional road lighting, at least here in Europe, but also I think in many other places, had these long fluorescent tubes. When you think of at least 20 years or 30 years back. So there were a certain amount of light, let's say 5,000 lumens, just to say a number, is coming out of that surface. And it's sufficient to illuminate the lights. Then people said, oh, we want to have LED lights. Because they're more efficient. So you have to have the same amount of light. Now it's coming from a much smaller surface. If you know that when cars are coming closer to you and you look right into the car, sometimes it hurts in the eyes. That's called glare. It's a blinding effect. So the more you concentrate the light onto a point, the more glare you will feel, which is bad for your concentration and for the adaptation to see things around. Again, particularly for elderly people. So in the past, there was a rule that the average driver, which should be used as a reference, is something the 30 years of age, 32 or 35, something like that, which made it impossible because of the glare rules to use LED lighting in roads, for roads, at least in Europe, but it's the same in other places because the European standards are used in many, many, many countries, also in Africa, I know. So it was impossible, but the industry wants to sell it. And the public hand wants to use it because they're saving energy, which is good for all of us. I have full understanding for this viewpoint. But the rules would not allow that. Now there was two sides to it. Either you say, okay, people, the average driver is becoming older and older. So I have to make light more or with less glare to adapt to the elderly people. Or the other side, look at the ecological viewpoint and ignore that. So what would you do? as a wise ruler of your country, you would say, okay, the people are more important than the energy saving. In this case, you would not have to install new luminaires, stick with what you have, and you have large surface luminaires. But what happened is that the average driver was changed to 23 years, making it possible to install LED lights. So that's a typical way where the industry has so much influence on the rules. Therefore, for me, it seems important to know where the rules are making sense and where not.
Perfect. What I understand then from you, Michael, well-being is more important than standards. This is
Correct.
how you look at it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that is absolutely right. Because for me, humans come first and architecture second, and ecological questions are also important. But the 100% fulfillment of standard is probably not as important.
Yeah. That's so ecological thinking and light become easier since LED is common. Isn't that right?
Yes, it's much easier because well, I heard LED reselling companies saying, "Oh, there's no heat anymore." Well, if there would be no heat, then why are there heat sinks on the backside of each and every luminaire, LED luminaire? So there's still heat, but significantly less. So you get more light for the same amount of energy you're investing. But you have to be careful. It's only worth it if there is a significant difference in it. I remember friends of mine having, how do you call that? A woodworking company. And they just, by the end of the year, said, oh, we've got a little bit of money left and we thought about spending and investing it. What if we would install new lighting in our fabrication hall? I said, well, let me have a look. Well, it would help more if you would clean your stuff than buying new ones. You have fluorescent lights there, which are not bad in your case. It works if you just keep it clean. That would help much more. If you want to make a profit out of it, then you should think about making a bit of automation for that. So think about sensors. That would be much more effective. You would make much more gain than any other investment in this case. Sometimes it's the light, but in other cases, automation can do much more good for you. So if you have long running times, it depends. So if you are flexible, switching on and off can be much more helpful if you do that automatically, particularly in automation, in industrial and commercial context. So lighting and automation should go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Yeah. Michael, you mentioned to me time ago that your collaboration with the German Institute of Lighting of Application and Design, which is the owners of Dialogues. Talk to us about this.
Yep, I've been working there with them over 8-9 years. That's where many people know me from that time, because I was the person there who started all the online trainings, things that I do still today. Looking forward to do that also in your country very soon. So I've been giving trainings on the software. I've been giving trainings on lighting design in general, and I've been working a lot together with the people on development dialogues. Now I think they are standing on their position and not going so much forward into new technologies, which is to me really a pity. So I've been working on collaborations where Revit is becoming more important. BIM, I think architects knowing a lot about it is something where we as lighting designers really have to do a lot more, which is not that elaborated yet. Then there's augmented reality, a new technology for lighting design, for which I have developed an app called LuminAiRe. Maybe someone has already heard about it. That's a tool which is probably, we'll have already other things about it in mind, how in which direction we could develop it. But for us, it's important to look into different types of software beyond dialogue, because that's probably not the end of lighting design in terms of tools. But the most important tool for me is still pen and paper. Pen and paper is the tool which I need most. I couldn't do without, because when I'm starting my lighting design, as I mentioned before, I have to do a concept, and I have to elaborate a strategy on how to make things work and how to make things look good, which is to me much more important than the which tool it is.
That's true. And that will take us to another question. How you are looking in the near future? Do you have any forecasting of what will be the trend in lighting design? For example, would it go more into artificial intelligence? Of course, it doesn't mean that I don't. There are a lot of designers who look at this as a bit of annoying. How you look at it? How you look at, first of all, how you look at the trend in the future in lighting design, not architecture, in lighting design specifically, and how you look at it as a tool in the lighting industry.
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, there are two different. These are quite kind of two questions. One question is, where do I see the future of lighting design? I think we'll be looking at things more at ecological viewpoint and more from a human viewpoint. The ecological viewpoint is, to me, it needs automation. We'll be looking at energy savings, making intelligent projects from that side. And the second thing is what is quite popular as like human-centric lighting. For instance, it will be how can I optimize my work space to work efficiently there? How can I make my workplace in a way that it helps me to get better through the day? Think of people working night shifts at airports or other places so that they can after work can get back to sleep. So you have to respect the melatonin curve, so the sleepiness effects, and awake people when they need to be awakened. I know that there are studies at schools, for example, that the same class, the same kind of pupils, those having the better lighting can achieve up to 40% better results in mathematics, 30% better in reading. And think of industry. The how do you call that? If someone is producing metal pieces and about things that are probably done wrong by accident have to be thrown away. These rates can be reduced by 10% because I have installed a better lighting. So surely that is one direction we all have to go. We'll all be going, and that's an important, and also from the investment viewpoint, because the value of a building will be much higher if you have an intelligent automation and lighting strategy implemented in there. I have done that with a company here from Germany where we've taken it so far. It's quite a big building where we had 2 coffee machines in there. And we decide on which coffee machine to use because of the one we get the most information from. So we are able to measure the time it takes to grind the coffee, and then we can switch off one sooner than the other, making it possible that the maintenance guy is coming only once, not this week for that coffee machine and 2 weeks later for the other. And this is true for everything inside a building. So that is surely, that's predictive maintenance. That is something which is a future topic. And this is also a matter of artificial intelligence. If you do that automatically with some intelligence, and this intelligence could also be used for us as lighting designers. Much of the design work, not the basics, not everything, but much of that can be a bit of automatized. You have like these questioning machines that you come across when you phoning a large company. A bit of that work can also be left to artificial intelligence, making my life as a designer or an architect a bit easier. That could be an approach. I don't know. Would you think it would be the same from your viewpoint?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question, Michael, that really always come into my mind about the how really you define a lighting design. How would you define? So let me explain to you on a quick manner. If what is today happening in the I'm talking about in our area. distribution of the fixtures and choosing the right fixture, we call it a lighting design. But how you look how you look about the lighting design concept? What is the importance of a lighting design concept? I have tweeted many times about this, about even in architecture, if you don't have a concept, the design is missing something. So how you look at this, or this type of question, let's say, at the lighting design concept?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with the communication on how to prepare a lighting design concept. So what you are mentioning is distributing light is not a lighting design concept. That is just fulfilling a standard maybe, but that's not a good result. But it starts, for me, it starts with the communication. And if you have 3 or 5 minutes, I give you a short introduction. I'm currently preparing a training in English, which will be held in Saudi Arabia, I think sometime during the next few weeks. And if you don't mind, I'll be sharing that with you. Is that okay?
Oh.
Okay.
So let's
okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, that's good. So that is one part of the training. That's one slide. So it starts with the question, let's talk about light. Do we all understand the same? That's usually where the problem starts. When I'm talking to another lighting professional, it is different than I would say, okay, I will have 4,000K lighting in this place. But my mother won't understand it. If I tell her, well, open the fridge, what you see there is not only the foot of today, that's 4,000K lighting. Then it's become, that light, no, I don't want to have it in my living room. Then it's all clear to you. So it has a lot to do with communication. So another example, talking about brilliant. What is brilliant to you as a lighting designer? Well, to your wife, probably she's thinking about the left side. You might be thinking about the right side. But lighting design as a lighting designer, brilliant or brilliance are the reflections on a surface. So look at the car and you see many bright points, all caused by lighting sources above. So if you're, for example, selling watches in a jewelry shop, you want everything looking brilliant, because as humans, we think where it is brilliant, it's expensive, which is very often true. But you want to have the cheapest watch look expensive to sell it at a higher price. So you should invest in a light source, which is not like a flat luminaire. You should invest in something which is causing some sparkle. So you should have many different small light sources. That is something that I have to know as a lighting designer. Now, here I have 3 examples of candlelight. On the left side, it's the candle. On the center image, it's something when you're sitting together with your wife, or as a woman, probably with your man, you're sitting on a table, having a nice dinner together, enjoying your time as a couple. That's a candlelight dinner. And the right side, that's a way to explain, I went down this road and the light was just like a candle light. So on the left side, I'm talking about the physical, how do I produce the light? In the center, I'm talking about a situation. On the right side, I'm talking about a physical description. So that's a way to explain it. And that's where the communication starts. Now, let me go a bit forward. So when I started lighting design, I mentioned it. I work with analyzation of a project. But that's not all. Many people say, I know already what I'm doing, because they're picking images from the internet and think that's lighting design. But that's not a lighting design at all. That is just putting things together. That's okay in jazz music, but it's not helping you. Then you have to listen to your client, but not too much, because communication, as mentioned before, is always an issue. And you have to know the normative guidelines and see which would you ignore, which not. Now, let's have a look at something at a later stage. So there's several slides. But when I'm doing lighting design, I have always fundamental decisions to take. Do I work in line with the expectations or against the expectations? Now think back, not 1 generation, not 2 generations in your family. Think back 2,000 generations or even more. You were sitting with your family around a fireplace. Why did you do so? because at night it gives you the safety against animals, wild animals, and it helps you to prepare food. It gave you light, it gave you warmth, everything you needed. And you would feel more comfortable when daytime came back, because as humans, we cannot see as good as some animals can do. So we were feeling better when we had the light coming from above, the sunlight, and we are used to have a bit of glare. We had that topic before, we touched it. And so this is what we would expect as humans, as normal lighting. Light coming from the side is not normal. That's, as you can see in the image on the right side, which is from a theater. Colored light is not natural. It makes us feel uncomfortable, and uniform light is not natural. So how far does it affect me? So it will cause me feel good and safe and relaxed, or the opposing. So what you see on the right side on that image, which looks like the sunlight, is a photo from an artistic installation in London by Olafur Eliasson, who's an artist for working on light. And that's in the power station of a London museum. And that was in wintertime. London is not known for having the most beautiful wintertime. It's foggy, it's rainy, it's cold. Well, much like today outside here in my place. Yeah, but we have no fog. Well, funny thing is, people came to that fake sun, sometimes paying entry fee 2 or 3 or 4 times, just because they wanted to have that feeling. And as you can see by the people there, one sitting on the floor in the evening, just staring at the sun. It shows to me how important it is that we know how we as humans feel, how does it affect us. It's a matter of well-being to us. So that is for me extremely important. So that is a bit about how do we work. Strategy is important. I love to paint with light. I would like to teach people how to do that. They will love it. Their strategies and all things go together. And it's at the end not about selling luminaires, because that comes to people automatically. You see a bit of what will be touching the issues, but that to me is telling almost the entire story.
Perfect. Yeah. You're done with this, right?
Yes.
Perfect, Michael. By the way, is on the right, the picture on the right. This is not a fixture, right?
No, that's not a picture. That's a projection.
That's a projection, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a. So also, technically, it's not. It's a mixed thing of a projection and a luminaire itself.
Exactly. So it's a projection and the vaporization of what do you call? I have seen it. It's like creating a wet weather.
Yeah, a bit of fog. Yeah.
Exactly. So fog so it takes the impression of the people that this is a warm weather kind of.
Correct. It makes them feel, it gives them the ease and the relaxation that everybody's looking for. For the evening time, people are looking into relaxation. I would not install that into a building, but I've done a project in India, and I have, that has been a huge private residence. So really big. She's something like a spiritual leader for the people there. And where we've been working with warm and cold light as a contrast. And the cold one in the back is a bit like the sky, which is above us. And there's been a certain area where there are some plants where we used particularly warm light. So the contrast is making it interesting. So you really can create atmosphere, and you have a bit of tension because you've got contrast, but at the same time, it's a natural way of doing. So people say, okay, it feels like I'm used to, as we as humans are used to see things.
So atmosphere will affect the emotions of the people.
Absolutely.
This is
yeah. Like you will never feel comfortable in such a situation.
Exactly.
So emotions are there because, like with the architecture, you do architecture because you need the building for people to feel safe. You need it as a workplace. But the value of a building or of a workplace, think of like current Corona times, more people are working at home. But when they go back, they expect to have, well, not the same situation, but they expect a certain kind of comfort or well-being. And as lighting designers, it's up to us to fulfill these expectations.
And that takes me always. I tweet in Twitter in my account and in Tasmim. I always talk about the natural lighting and how it's important. Not only artificial lighting, but also natural lighting. How you allow the natural light in your house. How you study the sun movement. And then you make your architectural design based on that. That's so important. How you look at it.
Well, you have to. It's difficult to make a lighting design if you don't know where that building is and how the orientation is. So that's where it starts. And of course, you have to know how is the building used, and so on and so forth. So you should be looking at it. How to say in a way that you know, when a room is used, and with the automation concept, you probably have shades and blinds because you don't want to have too much light from the daylight. It works together. So it is very nice. I made that as a project where in Germany, one of the few projects I've made in Germany, where we start in the morning with the lighting level below standards. As we are used in morning time, it's rather dim, and it's going to be, we have much more light. So I'm increasing the lighting level over the day. Then there's a certain time when the lighting level is so high that the daylight is so strong that we can dim it slowly down to save energy. So then all the time we're controlling that we maintain a certain quite high level to achieve good work results, as good higher levels of illumination help me. So then we start saving energy. Then over the noontime, we keep it low because it's not necessary. You got sufficient daylight coming into these offices. And in the afternoon, when we notice daylight is going down, also depending on the direction of the daylight, because it's moving, you know, the level is going down, the light of the artificial lighting is rising the light level. And as a user, I'm not even noticing it, which is like I would make my daytime longer. And I have to use an artificial lighting, which is close match to the natural lighting, rather a cold light in this case, because the daylight coming in is rather a cold light, which is also good for me to work.
Yeah, and that comes lately on the fixtures. If you control the color temperature, so it goes within the needs of the human body. For example, in the morning, the melatonin goes into a specific degree, and then in the afternoon you need to change the light.
Yeah, it has to be with our well-being, with our biorhythm, so-called circadian rhythm. It's very interesting if you ever had the chance to talk to a neurologist, to know how the hormones in the body are affected by light and how these things play together. It's really, really impressive how we are affected, if we want or if we not want. Doesn't matter. We are so much affected by light.
That's true. So Michael, really enjoy the session. I think we are close to start questions and answers, but before that, I would like to announce to the public that Light and Design and Michael and Light and Design represented by me and Michael we will offer to the public a course, 5 days. Mainly the main headline of the topic will be, you go ahead, Michael, you can announce it.
Yeah, it's about how to start a lighting design, how to create a concept. What you've seen here is a very, very reduced part of it. It includes physics and biological aspects. And we have like really a hands-on training. That's how I used it, how I've done it in the past for, you can mention almost any European company that I've been working for, start with Philips or Fagerhult. I've trained all these people. I've been working in the Italian Standards Committee and so on and so forth. And I always enjoyed training people. And the interesting thing. The further away people they are, the better it is. It's always creating such a good atmosphere because you learn so much from each other. To be honest, when I'm teaching people, I can tell you at the end, I've learned also something. And
Absolutely.
I've trained hundreds of people, and I really love it.
Exactly. Everybody is learning. And it will be, inshallah, with one of the local universities in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So we will look forward to start advertising about this. I think now we are ready for questions, Michael.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm looking forward to a question. Mr. Hanoudi.
Can we let architect Luai Hanoudi?
Sure. Sure.
Yes, thank you for a very interesting presentation. I have two questions. The first regarding a statement you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation regarding using cold bluish light on a wooden panel. What makes you decide when to use a cold bluish lighting or warm reddish lighting? The second question is regarding the glare. What strategy do you follow or use to eliminate glare from electrical lighting sources, like maybe changing the location of lighting spot, or maybe the luminance, or the design of the lighting? So what strategy do you follow in this regard? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So there is not like a one answer that fits to all things. First, about the glare. So sometimes I even want to have a little bit of glare. It is because I know that there is a rule. You should, for example, in office have something which is called UGR, Unified Glare Rate, not higher than 19. On the luminaires, there's kinds of label. This one is UGR 19, which is very funny because if you think how the UGR standard was defined, I think it was in the 60s, so now 50, 60 years back, you had something like a room, like a shoebox, and there were luminaires installed there, one time this direction and one time rotated. And they invited not even 40 people. And they were asked, do you think this is glare to you? And then they make a list, and that's the starting point of how they define what glare is, based on the opinion of 40 people, something like 40 people, which is a little low to me. Then they try to transfer that into numbers, and that's how the UGR was defined. So it's like something a bit more like guesswork than really a definition of UGR. So then I mentioned before, UGR, you can see it on the current slide, a bit of glare is not bad for us. There are certain situations when I would not accept glare. Think of something like a hospital when you've got operations there to do, no glare. Try to avoid it. Road lighting, when it's about safety, try to avoid it. But in places which are normal, I can live with a little bit of glare. If I have glare and I want to avoid it, then I either have to enlarge the surface of the light or split the amount of light which I have on several luminaires. That both will reduce the amount of glare which I will feel, or of course change the position. I can use a luminaire which has a lot of glare if it's just far away, so then I don't mind. So it's the cooperation of both, and a bit of glare, like I mentioned before, is good. Now think of the colors. Looking for, yeah, okay, I've got something here. This one is a USB stick just lying here on my table. It's orange. Why is it orange? To reply to your wooden question, it's only orange because there's orange rays inside as part of the white light. There's white light source. Having orange make it possible for me to see the orange in my eyes and to you in the camera. So if there is less orange wavelengths in there in that light source, because this is an incandescent I'm using, containing a lot of orange and red light. If that was a bluish light source, it would give less wavelength energy of that onto that surface, making it impossible to see the orange as it is. So if I would eliminate completely, which is not the case, but if I would eliminate the orange wavelength completely out of that, it will look black or almost black, dark, very, very, very dark. bit like that lady there on the image. She is probably wearing something like a black shirt and maybe a dark blue, but could also be a red skirt. But you would not be able to see the red because the red skirt because there are just blue rays hitting that. So maybe she's completely painted in green. You would not see that, or red, because it's just blue rays arriving there. So to see the wood, particularly warm wood, it would need you would have to have light containing the red and orange wavelengths, and the bluer the light is, the less you have of those. So you have to use a light source containing this. And the funny, or no, not so funny, rather the bad thing is, many companies are talking about CRI, color rendering indexes. There are 8 colors they use for testing, 8. None of them is red. None of them is blue. They're all pastel colors. So the CRI doesn't help me that much as I would love to have it as a lighting designer. So therefore, I have to decide whether that is a suitable luminaire for my task or not, which is bringing me back also to the strategic approach. The definition of the luminaire comes quite at the end of the design process, not at the starting point. I hope that helped a bit to your question, sir.
Yes, but regarding the color of the lighting, your answer was more for an aesthetic reason. If we take it from a practical reason, like how is the lighting color in the teaching institutes, in the hospitals, in restaurants, on the street, there must be a choice between reddish or bluish.
Some manufacturers offer that choice. If you have the colder light, you automatically, there are exceptions, but usually you have less red wavelength in there, which has to do with the way that talking about LED lighting, is generated. Usually it's based on a bluish light source, an ultra blue, which you then transfer into a more visible part of the light spectrum. And with that transfer from the invisible blue to the visible spectrum, the further you take it away from the initial blue, which is the high energy, you're moving it to a lower energy, then you're losing efficiency. Yeah. And it would be very nice if we would be able to offer full spectrum, really full spectrum, with the pronunciation of the red, as more like wooden things and earth and plants would look nicer if you had more orange in it. But it's just, how do you say, you cannot have both things, full energy efficiency and the warm color as a pronounced color. That's not possible, technically not possible. And so as a lighting designer, I have to watch closely. What is my important focus? What is it I want to achieve? If I want to achieve something really warm, then I have to talk to my client. Okay, we're going to use this and that source because it will make the atmosphere look better, and be aware and accept the fact that the efficiency is slightly reduced. Right?
Yes.
And achieving will be through analytics, which
correct.
is very
I have
important.
Defined before, correct. I've defined before what is my main target. If a good-looking wooden panel is my target, then I have to accept the fact that efficiency would come second or third or fourth or whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other
شكرا
questions?
لك أستاذ لؤي أو مهندس لؤي، ألف شكر.
العفو.
We have another question.
Mr. Muhammad, the questions, yes, the questions, the Q&A, if you want to read it.
Yeah, I have a question which I will read. Michael, I don't know if you can open, but let me read it. I didn't understand.
By Muhammad, hi.
Yes, Muhammad Yassin Ali. I will reopen 1 second because that question. Yeah, I opened already. So the first one, Muhammad Yassin. He said,
I think I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know him from the Dalus contact. Is there a need of light?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mohammed,
you would not see any architecture. Would not see even. We would not even be able to see each other if we had no light around us. So obviously, it's needed. Particularly, think of a million years back, we would go to sleep when it's becoming dark. Today, we're spending much time in the darkness, so natural darkness. So therefore, of course, it is absolutely obligatory to have artificial lighting in today's living.
Yeah, شكرا محمد ياسين. أشكرك. We have the next Mohammed Haj. Are you going to hold your next training that you announced in Saudi Arabia remotely or face to face? A good question.
Well, I wish I could come around. It's technically not possible in Corona times, so it has to be not face to face like it is now. And those people have ever been participating in my trainings usually know that it takes longer than expected, and B, we're talking a lot with each other. Like now, I really invite everyone to join and ask questions, and that's something that we'll be having for sure. So there's going to be much interaction. It's going to include practical, how do you call that, tasks. So I'll be prepared. I'm giving you the people things to work on, and I'll be reviewing them. So like a bit of homework. So if you think you're done with the 2 or 3 or 4 hours that day, no, you have an hour to do in the night shift to prepare yourself or to prepare these things. Because then I'll be looking there up, and we'll be talking about these things, because that is a way to learn about it. Yeah, you learn like I learn, but mostly you should be learning from my feedback, and I'll be giving you feedbacks for sure on what you are doing. It's a very active course. I have done this in the past. There's not so much difference between a live course when I'm there than doing it remotely over an online course. I think you're about 90% of the same quality, even probably 99%, depending on how much the participants are, how active they are. I really would like to tell everybody he should be as active as possible.
Exactly. So this is the answer for Mohammed. And I can add, it will not really be different a lot, except the body of Michael will not be here.
Yeah.
The rest is there. Physically,
yeah, probably another year, not this year. It doesn't look like I have the chance to come out, though I must say I really love to.
Yeah, but we promise it will be.
Yeah.
Right?
Then I have, do you consider the culture during studying the light? That's going to be part of the training. It's by Ahmad Bakri. Yeah. I remember one time, it was one of the learnings I made 10 years ago. But when I was thinking about it, it was something so natural. I remember being in the very south of Italy. And I was sitting there with friends. I used to spend a lot of time in that country. And I was always wondering, why are they having in their coffees, when they're sitting together, so simple fluorescent tube with cold lights? You would never do that here. You wouldn't even do less if you would go to Sweden. It's because, much like in your place, especially in summer, it's rather hot. And there is a relationship between the color temperature and the felt temperature, the temperature that you feel, which also has an effect on the building. So if you have a cooler color temperature, you can save energy on the air conditioning or on the heating, depending on where you are. So it has a lot to do with the geographical things. It can have to do with the cultural background sometimes. But that's something that we will be elaborating during the training.
Yeah, and Michael, can I add something?
Sure.
Ahmed, by the way, Ahmed Bakri is if I am, he's with the lighting chapter, Umran Society. Thank you, Ahmed, for this question. I have some elaboration on this. the culture, I think a human being is a human being wherever it will be affected. The body will be affected by the lighting if it's in the north or the south or the west. It's, I think Ahmed is talking about if I am correct, Ahmed, you can raise. I don't know how to answer, but maybe can we have Ahmed on a voice?
Yes, he have to raise his hand.
Yeah.
I can't see his name actually in that participants. I think he left.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think, shukran, Mohammed, shukran, Bashmandis. I think it's talking about the culture. Here we have some culture view on bright. You need bright lighting in an area. So if someone enters the room, oh, it has to be really bright, even sometimes over 500, 600 lux, where areas that needs only 300 lux. Maybe he's talking about this. So how you look at it different? If I may ask the question, how would you look if the guy from Europe or from Asia or from Saudi Arabia, how you look at the cultural differences? Would it change?
I think it's more like like you mentioned before, we are, as humans are not that totally different wherever we are. Then we're not completely different. So if you would move for 2 years from Riyadh to Stockholm, you would freeze, you would feel cold, but it will take you not much time to adapt to the same feeling of light. So it doesn't have, there are exceptions, but in general, it has to do with the same, it will cause the same feelings. It will cause the same expectations you would have if you go to a certain place. You have the same feelings because it's like a reflex. If there is light in a room, you remember the hotel lobby that I spoke about? It doesn't have to do with the fact if you're from Saudi Arabia, if you're from Milan, or if you're from Tokyo. If you enter a room, you would use the light will help you to guide you. So the cultural difference is very, very small because we all would have the same intention. You go to that place because you want to check in or you want to find the exit. So these are two places you want to go. And if you're sitting in the lobby because you want to meet with friends and talk, you want to have some intimacy, there are hundreds of people around you, but you will feel intimacy, which means as an effect, no matter where you are from, you want to have the same atmosphere. You want to feel safe and guarded and not like standing on a road. So you would have to have that feeling of intimacy, which can be at least helped by the light situation, which I'm designing. As interior designer, I would look into making, like, usually you have these groups where people sit together, probably some plants around it, so people will have the feeling of intimacy, and that has nothing to do or very little to do with the cultural feelings. Rather with an individual, there are some people which are very, very extrovert, but that has nothing to do with the culture.
That's good. Good answer, yeah?
There's a
Sufficient
question,
answer.
I think, from Abdulaziz.
Yeah?
Yes, hello.
Hello, Mehmet Abdulaziz, Abu Omar.
يا هلا أبو علي.
Yeah, Engineer Abdulaziz is from the lighting chapter, Omran Society. Well, and by the way, he's a lighting designer, Michael.
Hello, colleague.
Careful.
Yes. So hi, Michael. Yeah, actually, just a quick introduction. Actually, I have done my master's degree in Germany, in Weimar.
I've been teaching there as well for the users of Trilux.
Yes. So actually, I just want to have a small intervention concerning the aspect of culture. I think, in my opinion, as a lighting consultant who has been practicing design here in Saudi Arabia, I truly feel culture plays a big role because the way people feel lighting in different cultures, it really creates a big impact on how we should design our lighting in spaces. Of course, not in functional areas, as you mentioned, but a very simple example would be doing a lighting design for a mosque. When we pray as Muslims, we have to have diffused light. We have to try to reduce shadows. We have to try to prevent having a lot of light on vertical areas because our eyes has to be on the floor. So this is purely related to culture and of course religious beliefs. And it really helps a big role for a lighting designer when he needs to design a space. If you are a very good lighting designer who knows how to design architectural spaces and you don't understand how cultures works out in such areas, it's not only about function only, it's about also how the impression of light, especially in Saudi, you know, because of the fact that during the day you have long days and a lot of sun and heat. So people prefer to go out at night. So they prefer to have lighting in longer times, after even sometimes after 12, with higher lighting levels, as Mr. Muhammad mentioned. So sometimes if a consultant is doing a design for a garden or for a space where it is done with standards to be done in a low light situation, in reality, maybe the project will fail due to the fact that the cultural aspect was not studied properly. So this is actually my intervention that I wanted to talk about.
I really do agree. I really do agree to the opinion of Abdulaziz, but thinking of what the example you gave from the mosque, that you should have dim light and you should have certain, not too much, but a bit of light rather on the floor than on the walls to concentrate on your praying.
Yeah.
And not to be disturbed by the decoration around.
Yes.
Which is I absolutely do agree and understand, knowing a mosque around the corner myself. And so for me as a lighting designer, and has nothing to do from which cultural background I am, I have to understand, how do you pray? So then it's becoming, don't get me wrong, it should be very, very, please understand it, don't understand it negative, but it has to do with the function, with the work that you're doing, the work you're praying. That's work in that moment. So you have to understand how that work is done. So you're kneeling down and pray on the floor. So just imagine you would have another religion, you would pray upwards, then you would have to
different
have
way.
Lighting.
Yeah.
Correct. So it has to do, you can break it down to the function. And that has a lot to do with, to me, then I either know it because I know a mosque and I know the praying, or I would have, if I don't know, I would have to talk to the people. I remember in the past, to do a good project as an architect or as a lighting designer, ideally, I would have to live with that people for a while, which is not always very practical. But ideally, so if you, Mohammed AlNasser, you'd say, would you mind designing the light in my office or in my living room, which is rather a private place? Ideally, I would come to your place and live with you for your family for a while, and you would not even notice me. I would just look, how do you use your place? And then it would be perfect. As a lighting designer, and very much also as an interior designer, and to much extent also for an architect, you would have to walk inside the shoes of a person which is your client. Well, that's an Indian, so American Indian logic. You have to decide if something is good or not, what a person is doing, you have to walk in his shoes. And that's kind of what I would have to do. I would have to, well, in a mosque, you don't wear shoes, but if I have to walk in your shoes to understand your work, and I think that's what you're doing as well. So if you would have to design lighting, Abdulaziz, for a church, I think you could do that.
You have to understand. Yes. You're right,
Michael. Abu Omar, I would add to this what I think Engineer Abdulaziz is talking is in the cultural idea. A lot of people here like bright. Exactly. For me, Abu Omar, and Michael, it has to do with the perception. The moment the people have a lighting design, and I have a case, a quick story, I can say it. I have been inside one of the shops which sells men's dress, and those guys installed in the showroom, it's a retail showroom, a very, very bright industrial fixture. Imagine inside. So the moment you enter, I think it's over 1,000 lux. So what you do is you enter and you do like this. You pack, and then if you stay 1 minute in that retail shop, I would say you are strong. So I mentioned to the guy, even it was in the morning time, I said, do you understand that if you change your fixtures to, I gave him a specific criteria, to this, you will have
more sales.
Exactly.
And saving energy.
Your traffic,
and save energy, yes.
Exactly. Your traffic, and I told him, come over, I will bear the costs. But you will have to pay the invoice if you feel that there is a change in your sales. And of course, after a month, the guy realized that there is no need. So the talk Abu Umar is saying, Engineer Abdulaziz, is about the cultural idea that people like the bright.
Yeah, because even mosques, I mean, if you go to a mosque in Saudi Arabia, it's completely different than a mosque that you see in Syria, in Lebanon, or in Egypt, because it's totally linked. And I have visited even historic mosques. It really depends on the area and also the cultural, religious aspect that was in this era. The way of daylighting and artificial lighting has been treated completely different. But in Saudi Arabia, even if you go to a very normal mosque, you go inside and you have these either LED downlights that have a very wide beam with very bright light, or the fluorescent tubes. And this is due to the fact that people really love the notion of brightness. And I'm not saying that this is correct or not, but this is something that a cultural fact that we have to know about in order to try to integrate it and try to, at least if we change it, we have to educate it in a way understandable more. Yeah.
Engineer Abdulaziz, we need awareness. The moment you
exactly.
I have changed the lights in one of the areas where people like bright, and they taste the change, and you're right. In the first moment, they will not like it, but the moment they realize, after some time, they will love it. They will recognize that I'm having a headache before because of the light. The light,
yes,
really on the body. If you are from Germany, if you are from Saudi Arabia, if you are from China, it's the same. You are a human, and your eyes will absorb the same thing. So the idea, what is correct, is we have to follow in general, the lighting calculations, which should be the room, in either a room or a showroom or a mosque or whatever the space.
Yeah, again, it needs a strategy.
Thank you. Yeah.
شكرا، ألف شكر على المداخلة الرائعة جدا.
يا هلا، حياك الله أبو علي.
ألف شكر. Do we have more? Or we can wrap?
I think we can wrap up. You answered already all the questions, and we had taken all the raised hands.
Yeah, then
okay.
I thank you a lot, all those participants being here. It was great, really great to have you here, to talk to you.
I also thank you, Michael, for being with us. And I would like to thank all the audience, the people who attend and take a lot of minutes from their time. I really appreciate this. And without your fuel, interaction with us, even hearing without even questioning, but that really is the fuel for us. I would like also to thank Engineer Mohammed Mishahrawi. ArchiNet is a great platform, and I really invite the people, those of you allow me to participate in the lighting chapter of Amran Society. We have also, and there will be a cooperation in the future between the two entities that we will look forward with Engineer Mohammed. I really thank you, Engineer Mohammed, personally, because of the preparation I have seen from ArchiNet and yourself mainly. I thank you very much and looking forward seeing you in the future.
Inshallah. Thank you for being with us tonight, and Mr. Mohammed for organizing this talk, and Mr. Michael, and looking forward to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night, good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.